he brought, with a few prompts, drag and drop and all the fancy UI components, for a developer even, it gets you to 96%, and you just tweak a few lines of code, and then you have a functioning app up and running. And it's not a really just text editor. It's a complex app, and with that you can really tailor the apps for, as a RevOps expert, for marketing, for sales, for customer success, for financials, for reporting.
All right, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the RevAmp Podcast. Very special guest today, and Klemen, who I've had the opportunity to podcast with before. We got to meet in person this year at HubSpot Inbound. He was dressed for the occasion. And I'm really excited to chat with him about kind of AI's place in the RevOps tech stack in the coming year. Before we jump into all of that stuff, why don't you go ahead and tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself and your background professionally and how you got interested in this kind of stuff.
Definitely. Thanks, Mark, for hosting me. Really excited. The previous podcast hosting with you was fun, so looking forward to it. Long story short, I'm a pharmacist by training, so I'm not a developer, but I've been, as a founder, now involved in sales and business development for the past 13 years. Every new company is more further from pharmacy and more into sales. I'm not sure why, but that's how it goes. Now I'm a co-founder at Sellestial, where we're building an AI supported system for writing personalized messages for HubSpot users. So I'm learning, hearing, thinking a lot about AI from various aspects. I'm not a technical guy, but I do think a lot about how AI can help marketing and sales for sure.
Yeah, and I think I think you and I are similar in some ways, because I don't have a technical background necessarily, but certainly over the last 2 years, since the first iteration of ChatGPT kind of became available, that's changed, right? Like I have become technical. I've been writing code, or at least working with an AI assistant to write code, and really kind of stretching myself to go beyond kind of the what's expected of someone in a quote unquote non-technical role. But I'm interested, obviously, the jump from being a pharmacist to being a founder of an AI sales tech company is quite a jump. How did you get into kind of sales tech generally, and then kind of the AI world?
So the first step was after I realized I use a really good use of labor at my first startup, where it happened to pivot from being a tech company, a bioinformatics software development company, into being a data science for pharma companies. I was the note taker before AI note taker was a thing on every call. So I realized, okay, I'm not scientifically skilled enough to really help there. But at that company, I developed with my co-founder a system for lead generation into pharma. So we realized, okay, look, why don't we build a company that is helping do what we've been doing there for other vendors? And we decided on purpose to build it in a way that it's really product focused more than a service. So from there on, for 5 years, we've been building a lead gen agency. It was really, we developed our own system for sending out emails. We developed our own scrapers for data, for updating, for managing responses. We now have, a small team of a few people serving 80 clients with ease, because we developed a lot of systems. So I was always involved in that tech development, thinking about applications. And with throughout the whole career of being a lead gen agency, we've been always thinking, what we can do in a way that can be scalable. So of course, with AI and everything, my other two co-founders are computer guys. So they're they're the guys with hands dirty in AI. But we've been always really thinking how and what to do. And from talking to so many salespeople and sales leaders, it always felt okay. There is all that follow up game, and there's a lot of technical skills that salespeople don't have. So more user friendly tools to help it do stuff at scale that we've been already doing as an agency could help. Initially, we start developing an app for just one-on-one communication automation. Realize it's not gonna fly for a lot of various reasons. We learned last year, and now we are developing a system where, funny enough, our hunch is that salespeople will need to be really good at prompt engineering, not developers, not developing necessarily their own apps or systems, but prompt engineering is what will help you really leverage AI in the coming years. Funny enough, just today in the morning when I was listening to one of the other podcasts talking about the new DeepSeek model, uh, the host said it might be now more feasible than any time before now to fine tune your own model. Uh, where on the other side, a lot of experts are saying, it's not about fine tuning; it's about better prompt engineering. Every model that is better is more of less biased, and with fine tuning, you're just giving more bias in a way to the system. Where if you do prompt engineering right, you can have the power of a much better model and still navigate it in a way that it gives you the results you need.
Hmm. Yeah, not to get too much into the technical weeds, I did early on attempt to fine tune before I even really knew what that meant. So I think when I had access to GPT-3's API, and it just came out absolutely gibberish afterwards. So I definitely did it wrong. Um, but I think what would be interesting is that um, we can talk about a little bit about the areas in which there's going where there's opportunity for AI to really change things in the RevOps world. I think the use case of text generation in a large language model, I think that there's a lot people. It's already here, right? Everybody kind of knows that, and there are different ways of doing it, and then it's kind of the stuff on the back end that makes it unique is really kind of what sets it apart. But some of the areas that are ripe for disruption, before we got on, we were talking about one which is kind of data quality, right? So, and there's a lot of that. There's a lot of opportunity there. So, um, one of the things that you had brought up was this idea of using uh, large language models uh, for a dedupe problem, right? So I think everybody out there, their entire careers, if you've ever dealt with a database of contacts, CRM, the dedupe, the duplicate problem is a forever problem. It's always been there. Especially before AI, you could write as complex rules as you want, but there are always going to be edge cases, where you're just not going to get all of them. Um, but with AI, it's increasingly possible to potentially get, almost 100% of the problem kind of automated away. So, yeah, I mean, kind of how do you think that problem can be approached with AI?
Yeah, definitely a good question, a good case where I see a huge value for AI. Especially as you said, now if it's clear, its first name, last name, company name is matching. Obviously, no, this is no. two concepts that should be merged, but it's not often that obvious. Where you might have incomplete data to some extent, and then with some clever mapping and AI thinking, you can do that. Another part of data quality, and in a way dedupe, is when you're trying to update your CRM, you most likely don't have the information when a specific data was entered and from what source. Which means when you bring a data which is somewhat different to what you have in the CRM, which one is correct? Is it LinkedIn job title correct, or the job title in your CRM, is it outdated? Should you rely and someone just didn't update the LinkedIn profile? How to go about it? How to go about all the edge cases? If you want to upfront define all that, I mean, good luck to cover all the edge cases. But with AI, there is a good opportunity to just approach that more holistic, more broadly, if you will, and let AI combine all the thinking of possible scenarios, and case by case decide what should be the data you trust. And then whenever you get another point, you again just reconsider everything, and then through that, you can clean up your CRM to be AI ready from the data perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that is very apparent to me, at least in the current iteration of AI, is that databases are crucial. And I know that sounds silly, but it's like, I think they're even more important now because, especially, vector databases for sure, but it's, you know, like you were talking about, you have a CRM database. It may not necessarily have timestamp of different changes for every single field, or for, you know, um, which one is the more recent or whatever. Um, the I think this maybe started with having people were using things like a warehouse or data lake as kind of the place where a lot of these messy things were worked out. But when I talk to people working on AI solutions, almost always what they're doing is taking your original source, bringing it into a kind of different database or data model, and doing stuff there, and then passing it back because the AI needs like a very specific or the right kind of model to parse the data, and then it can send it back. So it's not really messing with whatever you have set up. Am I kind of seeing that correctly? Do you agree? That's kind
I,
of,
yeah, I would definitely agree. Yeah,
yeah,
you'll have kind of a single social truth data, and you want to have that, and then you're bringing other data sources to enrich, to do the magic with AI, whatever you do for different purposes, and then you keep the data clean at the source,
yeah,
and you want to have the structured approach and definition of how you say okay, and to what data you trust, because if you can't trust the source of a data, whatever you do with AI will be crappy. Just a case that we're now thinking about now within Celestial is we are about to have a system to help you super personalize every message, let's say for post webinar, where we want for post webinar highlights to be matched to the persona. A C-level executive is maybe interested to the first 10 minutes of a webinar, when a SDR might be interested to the last 20 minutes of a webinar. So why would you blast highlights from the whole webinar to every persona? But if you want to match the highlights to the persona, you need to have the persona right. So it won't help you to have a really good system to match the persona with the highlights if your source data is outdated. If the job title of a person is SDR, but that person is already head of sales for the past 3 years, you will be just personalizing in the wrong direction, and then you might conclude, okay, AI is not working for me. But it's not necessarily AI that isn't working. It might be your source data that you
Yeah.
should take a look.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of is a tangent, or kind of beyond deduplication is kind of the data enrichment, right? So up until now, there were two or three, let's say, big players that had huge data sets that we all worked off of, right? There was ZoomInfo and Apollo, or there is ZoomInfo and Apollo, and kind of those are the big ones, and then like a few. There's a bunch of other ones depending on where you are in the world. And they, especially ZoomInfo for a time, owned the market, right? They were the way to go. Um, I think that with AI agents and large language models, we may not necessarily be bound to have to pay considerable contracts to these people to do that data enrichment. I know that like we're already doing some stuff on a small scale to solve for some of those issues, right? Uh, are they? What's their current job role? Has it changed in the last 3 months? Did they change jobs, right? Um, I do think that that's a place that's already seeing AI innovation for the RevOps you know kind of use case. But do you think, we talked about some newer models that are coming out that are less expensive that can potentially be run locally, reducing costs. Do you think that as those come online, those kind of big analysis projects will become more commonplace within companies?
I would say yes. If now the a project would cost you, I know, $5,000 on O1, with the similar capability of DeepSeek R1 model, you would pay $100,
Right.
or I'm making numbers up, but
But we're
the,
talking
the
about
range
orders
might
of
be,
magnitude.
yeah,
Yeah.
the range is there. It significantly drops. So yes, you will want to leverage that because you can do it now at scale. Before, even marketing emails. Why would you still want to send a templated marketing newsletter if you can personalize it at no cost now with models that, you know um, if with O1 model that is really good for consistent output, and it obeys to what you say in a prompt. If the costs are 96% lower, why would you only stick to the sales part for personalization if you have all the marketing emails that can be written full individualized for every recipient? I mean, now you can afford it. You would, you wouldn't be paying, and it's not worth paying thousands of dollars for a marketing newsletter. But if we're talking here about $100 for the whole database to send a really personalized message, I mean, you would probably start considering.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for sure. And I think the thing that holds people back or holds companies back is there's an inverse relationship between the size of a company and its embrace of some of the more cutting edge things, especially when it comes to letting the AI write stuff that isn't done by a human and is going to be seen by the world. I think there's been some early on there were some cases with companies that were kind of let AI loose, and they made there was some guy interacted with like a airline chatbot and was able to convince it to give him like a 100% discount on flights or something, and they had to go by it, right? And then there was a lawyer who had AI write his case, and it was citing all these other cases that didn't exist, right? Those were kind of those were like very big in the news of like, oh, better watch out, better not let AI. So I think that there are especially a bigger company that has more to lose is less willing to kind of let AI handle that. Though I think as guardrails come into place and it becomes just what's expected, that's going to change. But the area that think is really going to be a game changer for companies, for RevOps, for sales, for revenue in general, is the predictive insights, predictive analytics, predictive everything kind of potential here. So it used to be that you'd have to run really complicated machine learning models, uh, you know, that did all this kind of scoring and stuff, and you still can. But I think that with these smarter models that are less expensive to run, that can even be run locally, and that can handle a huge amount of context, to kind of feed it your current kind of ideal customer that you have, and say, find matches like this, and it may find behavior patterns that you or I wouldn't see, but it does because it's AI. And then being able to kind of leverage that for predictive stuff, I think there's going to be a huge um,
Yeah.
benefit there. Um, I kind of want to see what you think about that.
Yeah. I think you're thinking the right direction. I would even say, I see probably sooner than we all think in the future, where CRM or a system connecting to your CRM is just going through everything you have. Now you have the scoring based on how actively they're maybe responding, and then you're trying to augment that score to, okay, someone above 60 is a really good person to focus on. But if you're thinking about a CRM, you not only have the emails, you have what PDFs they downloaded, what pages they viewed. Uh, if you combine that with their activities, maybe on LinkedIn, combine it with their press releases, you can just throw all that data into AI and say, okay, those are the companies I closed in the past 5 months. Go and find me the others in my CRM. I'm not sure what is the criteria, but I know I successfully closed those 50.
Yeah,
Go figure it out. Go there. You have all the data. If anything is unclear, just ask me. Um, if you need other sources, if anything is ambiguous or too nuanced in a way that it might be hard to understand, yes, we'll put additional sources. But I definitely see a time in future, where you have a season that just goes through all that data and just analyze it, and you know one idea might be, you have a season that says, hey, there's that person who just messaged 5 days ago, and according to behavior of your other customers, this is a really high potential, but for now you don't have that information because it's hard to gather. And as you said, it's just too much of data for your eye to gather, or for any holistic approach where you do some, you implement some bias of for triggering, is not sufficient enough. But with a more broader look at the data, there there are for sure patterns we don't even envision.
yeah. Sorry about that. I had a bit of a camera issue there, so
Don't worry.
my image here might look a little different for the folks at home. But I'll take what you said, and I'll raise you not only that data, but also, if it's an existing customer, all the product data that you have, and behavior within the product on an account basis as well as an individual basis, and then using that for upsell, churn signals, account expansion, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, it could be for anything, right? Like, when we talk about within the sales cycle itself, giving sales reps an edge of that, whatever signals about how to approach the sale, things like that. I mean, those are all areas where this kind of insight that humans might miss because we're not as good at finding patterns as AI, but that, would give an edge. So yeah, I think those are going to be big.
Yeah, definitely. It's not only for marketing and sales, but even for customer success teams, and of course for upsell to the sales team.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think the one area that we didn't cover, which is kind of near and dear to my heart, um, that I haven't seen in the folks that I've talked to, I haven't quite seen this change happen as much as I feel like it's happening within my purview, but is just the incredible ability to bypass either needing to buy an external tool or require additional tech um, resources internally to build, right? So if you have, it used to be that when budgets were as big as you wanted them, everybody got their own little special SaaS, right? For their very small sliver of a use case. Then we had, interest rates skyrocket, budgets got slashed, and everything, nobody had budget for anything. And so there's a lot of consolidation, right? And people lost those little of their little tools. But with AI, we can build those tools. I mean, it's so the friction that would stop you from being able to do that is almost non-existent. If you're like we talk about prompt engineering, if you can prompt correctly and you have something like a cursor or a windsurf or um, there's a whole bunch of them right out there. You can kind of build internal tools in a way that was never possible before. I'm doing it and I'm not a technical person, and so especially from a RevOps perspective, think there's a huge opportunity where folks in RevOps can really step up and take on a more what would have been traditionally technical role, and build and be kind of the builder. That's kind of the role
Yeah,
RevOps is always meant to be, is the builder. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I would definitely agree. It will go in that direction. Yeah, we'll all be developing small tools for that. Even with as you said, the expansion of all the SaaS, you always search for something and search for a long time, and the tool didn't seem to be exactly for what you're looking for, but then you try it and it might not necessarily work, and then you already spend probably the same amount of time that now you would spend just building that tool specifically for your own case. Yeah, um, I was just talking to our CTO, who said no, he now started using Bolt for web app.
yes.
He
So
said,
Bolt is
I
the other
mean,
one that I couldn't remember. Yeah, Bolt is
yeah,
another one.
uh, uh, he built the app, as he said, would take him before that tool probably a month or 2 months, within a few days. And it's
Yep.
not without any mock-ups, without anything, just it just works. Okay, it's not connected backend, but the web app works. He brought, with a few prompts, drag and drop, and all the fancy UI components. Of course, it's not 100% there, but for a developer, even it gets you to 96%, and you just tweak a few lines of code, and then you have a functioning app up and running. And it's not a really just text editor. It's a complex app, and with that you can really tailor the apps for, as a RevOps expert, for marketing, for sales, for customer success, for financials, for reporting. I mean, for now, it still feels we're just exporting data from a CRM, and then you go in Excel, or through Python script, you do some reporting and data gathering and tweaking and enrichment. But now you just have an app connecting to your CRM, and then you have what you need.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example of kind of my first kind of taste of this was, you know, back in 2022, or whatever it was, when ChatGPT first became available. I think it was around Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving holiday here in the US. And so I went, I went on a ski trip and I spent most of the time in a room trying to figure out how to use this thing to like make me better at my job. And what I came back with was this Airtable with an API and essentially was able to like build this thing that you give it kind of a broad topic and it'll build you an entire glossary for SEO. Strategy of keywords with glossary, and it just filled in all the blanks basically, and then connected to Webflow and sent it. And I presented this to my company at the time, and I could hear the devs on the call go like, "Oh shit," you know, because what this had enabled me to do. Today, I don't need Airtable. I can build the front end myself with Bolt or vo.dev, and connect it to all those things, and actually have a SaaS. So and this again is have almost no real technical background. So anyone that is kind of that mind, the opportunities to build internal tools and really establish yourself as a critical piece of the company as a builder. It's just endless right now. So that's what gets me excited. That's what gets me going in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, sometimes I hear, HubSpot admins or whatever CRM admins and RevOps experts might be, the ones behind. They just get, pulled into some marketing projects, and some sales projects, and some CS projects, and then the work they should be doing is just left behind. But the support should be now much faster for everyone, because you can just build something much quicker. You can analyze the data, and every team as a result will be much more efficient,
yeah,
because you sit down, you quickly tweak it. You just earlier today, um, we've been playing around with some APIs for some data enrichment, and if you can do that on your own with an agent. I know we've been searching for a tool to have a really precise revenue information. You have an agent that goes to Google, synthesize all the data right there for you, and it does a pretty good job, more or less for free.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so much, right? The opportunities are endless, and I think the only thing holding anyone back would be either fear or a lack of imagination. So I think the thing that uh, I would say as we wrap up here is that I personally, say like, slice off like 5% of your time to identify bottlenecks and problems within the org, and try to think about, if tech knowledge or resources were not an issue, how would you solve that problem? And go from there. And I'm guessing that off the bat, you'll be able to find a few things where you become the hero. So that's my suggestion to the folks at home.
Yeah, I would only add that, yeah, uh, even if it seems unreasonable to address that with AI today, the next model might just solve it. So think what's coming in 3 months, in 6 months. Understand the problems inside out, understand the processes, so that once the technology, the models are there, you can just go and automate or solve those bottlenecks. Because you know who knew a year ago what models will be capable today. We probably all anticipated it will happen in 5 years, but it happened in a year.
Yeah,
So who knows what's gonna bring the next 5-6 months.
very exciting. So we'll leave it at that. But before we go, Clement, if you want, tell the folks at home maybe where they could read a little bit more about some of the stuff you're doing, maybe learn a little bit more about Sellestial.
LinkedIn is probably the place to go.
So,
We have some basic information on the website, but I'm super active on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. I'm sharing a lot of tips and tricks around personalization, using AI to help you with sales process, write more and better messages around sequences for HubSpot. So feel free to reach out there. I'm always happy to chat.
All right, and we'll put a link in the show notes to your LinkedIn. So, Clement, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'm really looking forward to our next conversation in a few months. That when O7 comes out, and we can maybe talk about that. So, thanks again.
Definitely. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you